Imagine waking up to find your name, your very identity, erased from the single document that proves you're a parent. That's the gut punch Prince Harry took when little Lilibet's birth certificate surfaced without a trace of Henry Charles Albert David. Instead, two grand-sounding titles fill the blanks, and suddenly, a duke who once stood steps from the throne looks more like a legal ghost. How did one line of ink slice a prince out of his own story? Keep watching, because the paper trail leads somewhere darker than Buckingham Palace could ever hide. The trouble starts with a single sheet of government stationery. Under child's father, the registrar didn't type Henry Charles Albert David, the name printed on Harry's passport for 40 years. Instead, two ornate honorifics stretch across the blanks. First name, the Duke of Sussex. Last name, His Royal Highness. It reads like a medieval calling card, not a legal identity. For most parents, a birth certificate is routine paperwork. For Harry, this one felt like a scarlet slash through his signature. At first glance, it looks almost playful, as if a well-meaning clerk thought royal titles made the form more official. But titles are decorations, not legal substitutes. Imagine handing your bank a check signed the CEO instead of your real name. The teller wouldn't just laugh, they'd lock the account. By replacing Harry's given names with ceremonial fluff, the certificate quietly untethered him from the document that proves he's Lilibet's father. One missing name sounds small, but in the legal world, it's a trapdoor. Passports, custody rights, even emergency medical consent hinge on that line of text. Most alarming is how deliberate it feels. Someone had to choose to type titles instead of names, and that choice went unchallenged all the way to official registration. Whether it was a sly power move or a catastrophic oversight, the result is the same. Harry's authority over his own child now rests on shaky ink. But that was only the first paper cut. When Harry tried to use this creative certificate to secure passports for Archie and Lilibet, the real bleeding began. Duke dazzles on invitations, but courts and consulates shrug at glamour. Bureaucracy worships one god, the legal name. In the UK, you can sprinkle Sir, Lady, or even Doctor across a form. But beneath the flourish, the law still demands John or Jane surname, full stop. Skip that, and the document mutates from proof to prop. Why does the distinction bite so hard? Because every downstream system, passports, child benefit rolls, medical consent forms, runs on databases wired to match exact names. The moment Harry's titles replaced Henry Charles Albert David, the certificate became a square peg that no digital portal could swallow. Customs agents can't override a mismatch. Clerks won't rubber stamp a passport if the father on the birth record doesn't exist in any other file the Home Office holds. Think of it like software licensing. A vanity username might look cool on the splash screen, but if the activation server can't find the official account ID, the program just won't launch, and no amount of royal cachet rewrites the code. That's why Harry's request sailed straight into a wall of technical issues. To the system, the Duke of Sussex might as well be Mickey Mouse, recognizable but not verifiable. Worse, a faulty certificate seeds doubt long before a custody battle ever reaches a judge. If a parent's legal identity appears blurred, the other parent walks in with an automatic leverage edge. Titles inspire awe, correct names secure rights. And that's precisely where Harry's paper trail snapped, leaving him to watch months slip away while the passport office kept his children in bureaucratic limbo. Next came the 6-month blackout that exposed just how fragile a prince's power becomes when a single form refuses to play along. Passports are supposed to be a formality. Fill in a few blanks, wait 3 weeks, stamp received. For Harry, it morphed into a 6-month plunge through bureaucratic quicksand. Each time his paperwork hit the Home Office server, the system spat back the same icy phrase, technical issues. Translation? The database couldn't find a legal father called the Duke of Sussex, His Royal Highness. Titles looked grand on the page, but the algorithm read them as gibberish. Days bled into weeks. Summer melted toward winter. Staffers bounced Harry from help desk to supervisor, then onto an emergency 24-hour service that still looped him back to zero. Behind palace walls, he fired off sharp legal letters, threatening to demand every internal email that mentioned his children's names. nothing cracked the gridlock. No Henry Charles Albert David in the birth record meant no green light in the passport queue. Meanwhile, every failed attempt handed more leverage to Meghan. She possessed the one pristine credential the system did recognize: her own undisputed signature. Without it, Harry couldn't take Archie or Lilibet beyond US borders for a family visit, a royal funeral, even a quick Christmas in England. A prince, who once traveled on diplomatic clearance, now watched his calendar rot, grounded by a keyboard glitch disguised as protocol. Frustration turned frantic. In whispered conversations, Harry weighed an unthinkable workaround: abandoning Windsor altogether and resurrecting the surname that sealed Diana's legacy, Spencer. That desperate idea would spark the next, even bolder gambit. When the Home Office stonewalled him for the 5th straight month, Harry's patience snapped. If the Duke of Sussex couldn't pass the algorithm's gate, maybe the answer was to stop being a Sussex at all. Late-night calls to Earl Spencer, his mother's brother, the keeper of Diana's ancestral line, hinted at an audacious reset: ditch Windsor, revive Spencer, and slide a brand new surname under the scanner. On paper, it made brutal sense. Spencer is unimpeachably British, free of royal protocol, and crucially, already tied to documented bloodlines. The name would match records held by hospitals, parish registers, even Diana's own passport history. Swap one word on the application, and the system's red lights might switch to green overnight. But the idea carried a sting. Accepting Spencer meant conceding that his princely identity, the birthright he once tried to balance with normalcy, held no weight outside palace walls. It was an admission that titles could be glamorous yet useless, a velvet cloak that turns invisible under fluorescent bureaucratic glare. Whispering about the change felt like stepping onto a trapdoor. Choose your mother's legacy and lose the last shred of Windsor authority, or keep the crown-adjacent label and stay grounded indefinitely. For Meghan, the notion proved Harry's leverage was evaporating. Every day he clung to a title that wouldn't open a single airport gate. Her position as the children's default guardian hardened, and if Harry was pondering a wholesale rebrand, it signaled one haunting truth: he was running out of moves. Yet while Harry toyed with names, someone else had already turned paperwork into a quiet throne. While Harry wrestled with database errors, Meghan was busy mastering the paperwork that really moves empires. Remember Archie's 2019 certificate tweak, the one where her first name simply vanished overnight? That wasn't a typo. It was her dress rehearsal. She learned then that a registrar's office, given the right nudge, will rubber stamp almost any revision as long as the signatories look confident. So when Lilibet arrived, Meghan upgraded the maneuver. Instead of deleting a line, she replaced one, swapping Harry's full legal identity for a pair of ceremonial flourishes. In a single stroke, she transformed a husband into a heraldic footnote, and no alarm bells rang until the Home Office's software threw sparks months later. Why does that matter? Because family courts don't parse romance novels, they parse documents. If one parent's legal name is fuzzy or absent, the other parent automatically walks in with cleaner standing. Custody arguments tilt toward whoever presents a neat, verifiable trail. Meghan's signature sits flawless on every form. Harry's, tangled in title jargon, triggers error messages. Paper beats pedigree every single time. There's another layer: travel consent. Under both US and UK rules, a child can't cross borders with one parent unless the paperwork clearly names and gains permission from the other. By muddying Harry's official identity, Meghan didn't just create passport chaos, she secured a quiet veto. Any future flight without her blessing could be blocked at customs by nothing more dramatic than a clerk comparing forms. And notice the optics. While tabloids howl about who should style themselves HRH, Meghan rarely takes that bait. She lets the media circus whirl overhead while she tightens her grip in places the cameras can't see: registries, not red carpets. But if a missing name can tilt custody, imagine what happens when the law demands the entire certificate be ripped up and done over. Birth certificates aren't static. The law treats them like living code. If a father's legal name is missing or wrong, the entry must be torn open and re-registered by statute. The UK Registrar's Manual spells it out. It is a legal requirement for parents to re-register their child's birth whenever a parent's details need fixing. That redo is no rubber stamp. Both parents must appear or file sworn declarations, brand new GRO forms in hand, and supply evidence that the man on the amended line is the biological father. Skip any step, and the registrar freezes the request. Until the re-registration clears, Harry's parental authority sits in limbo. Under UK rules, fathers left off or misnamed on the original certificate do not automatically hold full parental responsibility. They need a fresh certificate, a parental responsibility agreement, or a court order to close the gap. That gap is where custody leverage hides. Imagine a future dispute. Meghan arrives with pristine paperwork. Harry shows up with a certificate the system once rejected. Judges don't weigh romance or rank. They weigh documents that match government databases. A flawless trail trumps a royal title every time. Travel adds another tripwire. UK border control demands a notarized letter from the other parent when one adult flies solo with children. If Meghan ever withholds consent, Harry's only road is court, and his best exhibit, the birth certificate, still carries the bruise of that missing name. One clerical swap has now metastasized into a global leash. And remember, every hour the re-registration drags on, Archie and Lilibet grow older, their routines harden stateside, and status quo becomes Meghan's silent ally. Custody law loves stability. A stalled certificate quietly builds her case. Meanwhile, tabloids keep shouting about royal titles, blissfully ignoring the quieter storm brewing in back-office files. Every headline screams about Harry and Meghan's titles, a shiny circus that keeps clicks rolling. Broadcasters zoom in on tiaras, podcasts bicker over HRH etiquette, and Twitter tallies who bowed to whom. It's loud, it's sparkly, and it's the perfect smokescreen. Because while the world argues about crowns, a quieter drama is grinding through courtrooms and government servers. Here's the split: titles shape perception, legal names shape reality. Tabloids love perception. It photographs well. Lawyers, judges, and border agents answer only to reality. And right now, Harry's reality is a half-blank certificate that still flashes red inside official databases. Each media cycle spent on royal gossip buys Meghan more time to solidify the paper trail in her favor. Public outrage can't overwrite a missing name, but it can distract everyone from noticing the gap until it's too late. The fog works both ways, too. Meghan rarely corrects rumors about dress codes or seating charts. Why bother? Every minute reporters focus on tiaras is a minute no one asks hard questions about re-registration forms, parental responsibility orders, or travel consent letters. The longer the spotlight stays on pomp, the deeper the legal roots grow under the surface, invisible yet unshakable. For Harry, that's the real danger. By the time the noise dies down, the paperwork may be settled, the precedent locked, and the leverage gone. He could win every headline debate and still lose the only contest that counts, the one filed in triplicate, stamped, and archived in a vault, which leaves one final question hanging in the quiet. Can a prince claw his way back from legal invisibility before the ink dries forever? So where does this leave the man once heralded as His Royal Highness? Trapped between two worlds, one where gilt-edged titles still glimmer in headlines, and another, far colder, where computers reject his name, judges weigh unromantic forms, and airport gates refuse to swing open. Lilibet's certificate was only a sheet of paper, yet it sliced through his authority like a scalpel, bleeding away the practical rights most fathers take for granted. The irony is brutal. Harry escaped palace protocol seeking freedom. Instead, he's discovering that freedom is forged in mundane details: box ticking, signatures, matching databases. Lose control of those, and a lifetime of royal ceremony shrinks to a decorative footnote. Meanwhile, Meghan, fluent in Hollywood optics and legal fine print, holds the keys that matter: the children's passports, the travel letters, the updated certificate that will decide custody if their marriage ever cracks. Maybe Harry will course correct, push through re-registration, and reclaim his legal footing. Maybe the courts will sympathize with a father whose name got lost in translation. Or maybe the paperwork is already ossifying, sealing him into the margins of his own family story. Either way, the saga exposes a truth bigger than royalty. Power isn't always a crown or a headline. It's the quiet line on a form that says who you are and who you're allowed to be. Let that sink in the next time a tabloid screams about tiaras. Sometimes the loudest stories hide the sharpest cuts, and sometimes the mightiest figures fade, not with a scandalous bang, but with a missing name on a piece of paper.